what I wanted to show you was a couple of our most popular applications, and some of you may have already heard of these or seen some of the things, but the first one is called Shotput Pro. And Shotput Pro is a simple copy application, and it's purposely simple, interface, and we sell a ton of these, and it's implemented for all the various HD formats. So you won't find in here, in this newest version, any place to choose a particular type of media. It is smart enough in the background to figure out when you load a P2 card in that it's a P2 card, or an S/S card, or a Canon, or any of those types of things, and copy the appropriate information off the card to the destinations that you tell it to, and give you the opportunity to reformat the card at the end if you wish. Some of the things that are new in this application this year that we introduced at NAB timeframe is this whole new interface. And what's happening here is, here's my list of attached media, and you can see here I have a P2 card. If I open that card, it has the contents folder and all that kind of stuff in it. You can actually drag and drop into this list, and it's telling me, hey, you didn't designate where you want to put these. So let me go do that quick. And there's two modes here, manual and automatic, and automatics is just what it sounds like. Once you set it up, as soon as you stick the card in, the next card that comes in, it'll just take off and start copying it. But we're going to add a destination, and I think what I'll do first is go out here and make a new folder, and we'll call this our offload. It's not letting me delete that. There we go. And then I'm going to add it here and choose my offload destination. And I can add as many as I wish. I could have this do 10 copies at one time. More typically, people do 2 at a time, 2 different backups. They'll have attached media or attached hard disk by FireWire, USB, those sorts of things. And you'll notice in here there's a couple ways to name this. And you can let it be custom volume, where you type in the name every time, or you can let it automatically increment number 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can use the card name, meaning that the name of the card that it already, and you can see my card's name P2 card 3. And this is simply how it's going to name the folder that's going to happen inside of this offload folder. And you can do it by volume, dates, and all that sorts of things. You can also add a prefix or a suffix, and some of the other settings are in here. Let's go to the preferences, and you'll see some of the other things that we can do. This has maximum number of simultaneous copies. It's like, what are you doing, Dan? You just chose one. Well, what this is actually saying is how many copy threads per CPU do you want this software to do? How much of your CPU do you want it to take over? So if you have a quad core, for example, and you set this at 5, it's doing 5 copies or 5 separate files, processing 5 files per CPU at the same time. So you're processing 20 copies or 20 different threads simultaneously. Why do we give you the opportunity to throttle this? Because if you have a screaming fast computer and you set the copy threads really high, there's a good possibility you'll max out the ports on your machine. And when that happens, like you try and put too much through the pipe through FireWire 400, let's say, things will get really, really slow. So it can take upwards of twice as long to make a copy just because you saturated the electronics of the port. But a typical speed, our typical number of copies is 4 or 5 range, that kind of thing. We have various types of file verifications that you can do, and the most typical is the fastest one, and what that's doing is when it finishes copying a file, it checks to make sure that it matches exactly the same byte count as the original. If you do the byte by byte verification, it's going to take longer because every single byte that goes across, it's going to compare. And we added a no verification, which sounds kind of crazy, but in some cases, if you're doing things like copying it to a RAID or copying it to an LTO drive, like the cache or something like that, it's possible that the receiving end, the receiving destination, is actually spinning those files off someplace else before our app has an opportunity to check the source, size against the destination. So, and then you'll get an error because it'll say, "Hey, I can't compare. I don't know." And some of these other things are interesting. The reason why we added this opportunity to see that the HD cards actually contain video files, we've had people that copied blank cards. They didn't realize that the card they put in it was one they hadn't actually put anything on, and then it's very frightening when you have a copy on your hard disk that there's nothing in it. Then you're wondering what happened. By checking this, it's going to make sure that, hey, it's a valid file. There's really something on this card. The reason why we have that as a checkbox is because this interface now also lets you do things like copy just a folder or a portion of your hard disk. So if I wanted to clone some of my hard disk off of my laptop onto an external hard drive, I could open Finder and drag folders into here and copy those onto the destination. So, and then some of the other preferences in here, I won't go through all these things, but you have things like, hey, I can make a warning sound, and it's going to let you save a log file that tells you what, all the different files that it copied and how long it took and all that sort of thing. And you can choose where you're saving that and how much information is in that log file. It's just a text file that you can print. That comes in handy for things like billable hours or for verification process. If you're handing it to the client, your copy to the client, they're going, hey, it's missing blah, blah, blah. You can go back and look at the log and say, well, see, it said it copied it. It's actually there. And we've had that happen before where the hard disk copy that they handed the client was actually starting to fail. And so files were disappearing off the hard disk. No fault of ours. So down in here is after you're done copying, what do you want me to do? Play the thing. You want me to automatically reformat the card? Do you want me to eject the card? If I reformat it, do you want me to warn every time, or you want me to just do it? Yeah, you can imagine why that might be important if you're the IT guy's in the corner and you're on the set and you don't want an alarm to sound while you're doing that. So I'm going to drag this guy into the list, and it's doing some things. It's estimating how long it's going to take, and where I'm coming from and where I'm going to. And I can tell it to, I'm going to close this drawer so it's not, and tell it to go. And here's the offload details. If I had a number of these in the list, then I'd just click this little button beside it if I want to see the particular details. And there's a lot of information in here about where it's coming from, where it's going to, how long it took to do it. Let me go back and open that again. When it finished, you get a green. I don't know if you heard the ding, but it's telling me, hey, I did it successfully, and it's telling me exactly how many bytes there were and how many I copied, how many files there were, how long it took, what time I did it, all that sort of thing. And I can view the log file, and this is the file that you would be saving in the text information if you want to do that.